All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It was a wild week last week with the Bank of Japan and Powell, and even though we have a lot of data this week, I still think the stock market is going to be mild. So we were joking about this on Friday. I hope this video jinxes it, but even though there's going to be data like the PCE, after last week and all of this central bank bullishness, I really think we are not going to get much in the same story of tech dominance, chips outperforming. It is well in place, and last week after all of the events, not much has changed, and unless we get a black swan, it seems like we are going to be on that golden path. So, Chad, we got a lot to talk about. I got the plays for you. I have the keys and everything else this week. What I need from you, a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed, and if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. We will see you there in the morning, baby. It's free 99, and today is Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. Do not forget about the random account generator. I don't have it up here, but what we do on this watch list, we ask that you post a random option trade in the comments below. Keep it below $100. Post the strike price, expiration date, all that good stuff. And tomorrow we are randomly going to select it. And honestly, the DraftKings, the GLD, we've been doing good this year. So come on. Let's get a good play posted in the chat. And thank you. By now, run it, baby.
Walking to the couch, it's the 2020 last shit. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the last shit, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, off the bat, like I said, there's a lot of data this week, but it's not necessarily big data. There is going to be the PCE, but after Powell last week and the response to the previous sets of hot data, people are kind of downplaying the data this week. Even Friday, last week, after we got over the events, the market started pricing in very small moves. So we're not expecting much. The PCE this week is expected to come in hotter. There is going to be other data, everything from Conference Board of Consumer Confidence to final readings of Q4 GDP, new and pending home sales, and then even personal spending and personal income, which will be big. But besides that, the only other main theme, it's going to be the Fed speakers. There's a ton this week, and then even on Friday, we're going to hear from Powell, so all eyes will be tuned to that. Other than that, though, like I'm saying, I think it's going to be very mild. I don't think we are going to get shocked too much, and that's what pretty much leads into the second key and where we move forward from here. I think it's the same market, the same Fed, the same golden path, and there's not much that should be changing us. We are just going to digest everything that went down last week. It'll be a matter of melting up even higher or kind of settling into this range because it has been about 100 or 150 points every week or so. So I think we're going to settle into all of that. The data might be able to move the bonds. It might get us moving here, but until we get into the data like CPI and non-farms, I really think the market is good to go. And this is something I've been saying here. The only thing that's going to knock the market off of this path, it's going to be a black swan. If there's something unexpected, a big bank failure, something happens in another country, literally something we cannot expect, that's the only thing that's going to change this. Otherwise, the data's moving slow. The central banks are moving slow. That's what we got out of last week with Powell and the Fed not moving the dot plot. You even had other central banks starting to cut. Everybody is moving slow and kind of getting ready for this, so there hasn't been anything to get in the way and stop a lot of the broader narratives here. So keep that in mind. Watch out for all of that as far as what you should be watching for this week. If I could close it out with a final key, it is this big question here of where do yields settle? I don't know if you guys remember when I was showing you the 10-year and remember when it was climbing through 4, then 4.25, then 4.5, and every time it would go through one of these levels, it would mean a lot for the market, and that's what you got to ask yourself right now. Where does the 10-year settle? We just heard from the Fed. There is a gap between the 10-year, and you could even see how it moved from last week, but we got to hear from the Fed up until June. We're not really going to get anything that should change the trajectory, aka SCP. So in the meantime, do you have the rates settling below 425? Do they get down to 4 and even lower, or do they start to climb back up? Does the data start to come in hotter, and do we see that play out with the bonds? I really think this is going to be a question that we ask next, or as we start moving here, or maybe as the market starts to like level out and hold up, the bonds may need to find a home there. And then the next question, when does the dollar stop going up? That's something we're going to watch for this week. Like we said, there's been a lot of currency moves and a lot of places cutting rates that could be influencing even gold. Last week we were talking about the debt. Now this week you have other central banks starting to cut. There's a lot of things weighing in on central bank land, and when we do start to finally get the cuts and all of that, we will start to see action there. So watch out for all of that. But besides that, I think it's going to be a chill week. Hopefully I'm wrong and we get surprised and there's a lot to react to. Remember, earnings are right around the corner. We don't have too much to deal with this week, so that's good. There will be a couple of the continuations, but besides that, we move in, see where everything's settled in from last week, and then we'll see if we could even get some opportunity. So now, let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I got a couple of different plays that I'm looking at for tomorrow. We did make a few. I have one that's not on this list, but we'll go over it after. But first one, I got to start with Lululemon. I made this play on Friday, and I only went with a weekly, so I guess it was Friday. I went with the next week, but it expires this week. I grabbed one of the Lulu. I believe it was like the 440 call. Yeah, 440 call for 40 cents. It went up over 100%, but essentially they had their earnings. They missed the bar, and then they guided a little bit lower, but I think they're just going to have a really big range. It reminds me of Adobe last week. That's why I went with the 440s. I was even thinking some of the dailies there, but it was a Friday, so I said don't push it, but going to be watching it this week, keeping it small, going to look to ghetto spread or maybe even sell out of these Monday, Tuesday, depending on how they open up, and then if they open up good, sell out. We could always double dip. So watch out for that one. That is play number one. Then play number two, I was just showing you guys the bonds there, ZT and ZB. I'm still in both of these plays. My longer term bonds, I was making a flip on this right ahead of the data there about a week ago. That one came back up. The ZT, that was the play that we made. The short end of the bond curve, the 2-year, that was made after Powell there. I do like both of these plays. They both went green. And last week, the longer term held up a lot better than I expected. And I still think the short term has a long way to go. Simply short end 2-year bonds are like 4.6 or 4.5 right now, and right now I think the dot plot is still showing 4.6. No, I think it's a little higher right now. Last time I checked it was above. You could go double check right now though, but either way I think we're going to either get some relief in bonds this week or they're going to fade that pop on Friday. Essentially, they had a nice move on Friday. They all kind of went up on Powell. It's either they get their pop after selling for a couple of weeks, or it's going to fade it off, and before you know it, you'll be right back at the lows you were at last week before Powell. So watch out for that. Going to be in those two plays. Still eyeing those all week. And then finally, play number 3. This one's a little bit weird, but BIDU, and I finally made another average, and I was a little hesitant because I already averaged 3 times. Remember, I've been holding this play since August, but they are reportedly in discussions with Apple over licensing their AI tech on Apple devices in China. That was the news on Friday. They popped and then sold it off a little bit, but I said, hey, might as well grab some shares, so I added 250. I think my average now is 715 shares at around like 112 or 113, so we'll see how it plays out this week. There is going to be China data or a China event. There's a lot of American CEOs. They're going out to China for some business conference and meeting. Xi Jinping is going to be there, so hopefully we get a pop from that. Otherwise, we'll see if any of this Apple news could carry on, and just watch out for Apple. Remember, last week was a ton of carnage for them, so those are the main plays. As far as everything else, the only other play that I don't have written down here, it was the Nuve. This was a play I was talking about last week. They got mentioned as a buyout candidate. I decided to go with a play on Friday. I grabbed 3 of the $35 calls for April. Got about 3 weeks of time for 30 cents, $100 in total. Just in case they get any of that buyout news, I do think 35 is somewhat reasonable. Again, that's why they are a buyout candidate. They were trading for a lot more than they've sold off, and then recently they got that news, and then they started popping last week. So chart looks very interesting. Going to be watching that, but it is one of those buyout gamble plays. Last time we did that on CYTK, it did not end up hitting. So we'll find out how that all goes. But besides that, no other plays. I will be watching gold and oil. That will be something to keep your eyes out for. I'm in some of those buyout plays, or I got rid of the JWN last week. I'm still in the JRVR. I think Nuve was the other one, and I think there's one more that I'm still holding. I still got that IPO one. We're in that one. That one got clapped, but that was small, and then no Reddit, and just waiting for this week and seeing what's going to happen. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. And I need you to remember, success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. Oh, yeah. Think about it for a little bit, but get a good night rest. I'll see you in the morning. We got another week. Get in the game, and shout out to Long Term. I love you, Chad. And good night. I'll see you in the AM. Good morning. I don't know. Horn.